Yeah, the reason I'm saying good morning here is because it's actually 7 minutes past 8 here in Western Australia. All right. I'm just I just want a quick check. Anyone within our participants who are within Australia? Can I get a quick chat thing on the chat box? Whoever who's in within Australia. So we got someone from Melbourne, Brisbane. All right. And yes, and anyone out of Australia? Which part of, if it's out of Australia, which part of the world? No one?
Philippines.
Okay, I'm not. Oh, yeah, we got someone from Philippines. All right. Okay, so let's get this going, guys. A quick introduction about myself. Probably I'll start this off first, and then so we got someone from Rwanda, Marvin. All right, all right. So first of all, my name. A quick introduction about myself, and then I'll surely will pass this to Luca after kind of a quick introduction on Luca. All right. My name is Dr. Arvind Armugam, and I am actually the program leader for this advanced diploma of illumination engineering and lighting design. Yes, it's a quite long name. I always find uh, saying the course of this particular course name a bit more harder compared to the others that I'm actually looking after. All right. So the Advanced Diploma of Illumination Engineering and Lighting Design. That's what it's called. All right. So I'm actually the program leader for this and also taking care of the whole entire coordination of this particular program and so on. Right. I'm based in Perth. We've got our Perth campus here. All right. As Marvin said, we do have presence in few different parts of Australia. Perth is obviously more of the head office, all right, but we have got Melbourne, we have got Brisbane. Brisbane just started recently, but we also have got presence more on our next biggest presence would be in South Africa, right? So we got a big setup there in South Africa, and we are in fact starting up operations soon in the UK. All right. So that's something that we are also looking forward. All right. And if things happens, we'll also be looking into providing courses in the UK. So there's a bit of EIT. We'll talk about EIT later on. But moving further, I'll also would like to introduce our presenter for today. That is Luca Sledner. Now, to just mention a few things about Luca. Luca, apart from being part of IES, she has been obviously quite helpful in terms of looking into the endorsement of some of our modules. Now, apart from that, Luca also plays a role in EIT's the advanced diploma course, especially this one, by being the course advisory committee member. So she has actually got two roles, apart from being in IES and looking into the endorsement of some of these modules. I'll let you know how EIT and IES are in fact working together. But on the other part, as part of the course advisory committee, Luca was obviously been part of our members and been contributing some useful feedback on how this course should be and what can be improved and so on. All right. So with that, I would now pass the mic to Luca to get going. I'm sure you can take control, Luca. I'm not sure whether you have got. Can you see a take control on yours? Yeah, there you go.
Yes, I have it.
Okay.
There you go.
Great.
So this is me. So hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. And thank you, Arvin, for this lovely introduction. And I will expand a little bit about myself further. So my background is actually, I'm an architect. So I have a master's degree in architecture. But during my student years, I stumbled upon lighting, and immediately it was like I found my calling. I was immediately aware how important lighting is, and not only in architecture, but in everything that surrounds us. And I dedicated my life to lighting ever since. So not only that now I am based in Sunshine Coast, so I'm in Queensland. I own my own consultancy, and I am an active member of the IES, so Illuminating Engineering Society of Australia and New Zealand, where I'm a member of the board overseeing the knowledge and development portfolio, so looking after the educational establishments throughout Australia and New Zealand. I'm also a certified lighting designer by the IELD, so International Association of Lighting Designers, and I'm also a teacher. So with all this, let me start my presentation. I wanted to talk about what lighting is. What is illumination? So typically when we say, oh, lighting, we just look up, we look into the ceiling, but it's not, it's much broader than that. Lighting or illumination is comprised out of daylight and artificial light. So anybody who is in illumination industry, see, I didn't say a job. There's no such thing. You are entering an industry. So whether you are interested in daylight or you're interested in artificial light, you need to, in this path, you need to incorporate both because they intertwine. So whether you are an architect or you're an engineer, or if you've got anything to do with designing a space, it is important that you look into both. So there we go. So what does lighting affect? Where do we see lighting? Well, the obvious things that it affects our safety, it affects our mood in a profound way, productivity and health. So all of these things, light is not just there for us to see how to, I don't know, chop the onions or how to knit a sweater, or that we find all the dust bunnies around our house so we can sweep. No, lighting is all around us. So it makes us feel safe. You know how we feel when we walk into, let's say, an underground tunnel and there's insufficient light. How would you feel? You don't feel safe. You feel dangers lurking around. Not that they're there, but this is how it affects us. When you are entering a room and there's warm light, how do you feel? You feel warm, you feel cozy, you feel relaxed. When the lighting is bright and intense, how do you feel? You feel more energetic. So that's why, let's say that you walk into a gym. What's the lighting there? Have you looked at that? And productivity, dimmer lights or versus bright lights, they will affect how your brain function. That affects your cognitive abilities, and not to mention your health. So it affects everything from your metabolism onwards. But let's touch base on that a little bit later again. So how does it affect mood and ambience? Like I mentioned earlier, imagine you're walking into a restaurant and it's lit very brightly in very bluish colors. Would you enjoy dinner with that? Would you feel romantic? You would take your partner there. How would you feel? Does it do what you want it to do? Does it affect your mood? Yes, of course it does. So all the rooms need to have appropriate lighting depending on the mood that we want to achieve. Now, on the other hand, if you walk into an office and the lighting is dim, would you feel like you want to do any kind of calculations, any high intensity, strenuous cognitive work? Probably not. It affects the functionality. So sufficient lighting needs to be provided. And this is mainly talking just about the artificial light. Of course, like I said earlier, it's artificial lighting and day lighting, they're intertwined. So we need to account for both. And it goes for aesthetics as well, safety and security. So if there's a parking lot, imagine there's a parking lot, if it's brightly lit, do you think the incidence of breaking into the cars is going to be higher or lower if it's sufficiently lit, or if it's dark? And sometimes we would just say, oh no, I don't feel safe. Absolutely true. And lighting affects all of that. Now, I mentioned earlier how it affects our mood and our well-being, our metabolism. You've probably heard about circadian rhythm. From some of you know more about it than others, but circadian rhythm is not only, it doesn't just address our waking and sleeping cycle. It affects everything. And how does it affect it? Well, it affects it through the color, mainly through the color of the light that is penetrating our eyes. So when we say, oh, our vision is made of rods and cones and such, we've got other cells in our eyes that can detect the color of light, and we will adapt our activity accordingly. Just just think about it. When you wake up in the morning, what kind of color is the sun or the sunlight that is coming in? And is that color different to the color of the sun in the evening? Yes, it is. And our bodies recognize it, and they start the hormone and neurotransmitter production to make us alert, to make us wake up. Our digestion will kick in because it has been asleep like we were. So during nights, our digestion slows down, our metabolism slows down, and it kicks back in the morning. In the early days of the morning, so before lunch, you're going to be the most alert and adapting your activities for like studying or doing high strenuous mental work. That's the best thing you can do. Towards the afternoon, like 3 p.m., how do you feel? Do you still feel like you are up and running for studying? Probably not. You'd like to slow down a little bit. But we are better at conversations in the afternoons. Maybe some of you have already noticed those things. And then as the day progresses towards the evening hours, again, the color of the sun changes. And so does our productivity, our metabolism. The whole cycle then repeats the following day. So it's not just the wake and sleep, it's everything is connected through the circadian rhythm. Now, there's another aspect that we need to take into account. It's human-centric lighting. Lighting should be designed around the user. So in this case, it would be designed around us. And human-centric lighting is it transcends the sole focus, like my slide says. It's more than just circadian rhythm, because everybody is different. So your daily habits, your daily routines, your preferences, or your needs might be different. I'll just give you a quick example. Has anybody been in the shops on certain days where you noticed that the lights were dimmer? Probably yes. So on certain days, this is the new thing that is happening around Australia, is on certain days they've decided to dim the lights to allow for people with special needs, mainly with on the autism spectrum, who find bright lights too intense, overstimulating. So they've allowed for the area to be dimmed down so they would feel more comfortable. Now, how does that relate to circadian rhythm? It doesn't. This is human-centric lighting. This is lighting that is making us feel our best. And I've just given you one example. So elderly people, to give you another example, elderly people, as we age, our eyes age as well. And our eyes would need different types of lighting, or the lighting that is adapted to us. It needs to have a little bit different color temperature. So when you go, let's say, to visit your grandmother at the nursing home, you will see that the lights are different to what you would see, let's say, in a classroom. So that's all that encompasses the human-centric lighting. It needs to be designed around a human. So that's one of my statements. There's no such thing as a cookie cutter strategy when it comes to lighting. You need to see what the individual spaces require and also their end users. So next question that I would like to address is, and I get asked this almost every day, well, what is the difference between a lighting designer and a lighting engineer? Both within the illumination industry, we would like to say that this is a spectrum, like everything is. Some people like food that is more salty. Some people like food that is more sweet, to give you an analogy. So in general terms, we would like to say or describe ourselves that a lighting designer is more on the, I cannot say decorative, but more artistic side, whereas a lighting engineer understands very well and complies with the numbers. It would be like somebody saying, I'm better at math than I am at the arts and crafts. But where are we? Everybody, there's very, very few people in our industry that could identify themselves as strictly as a lighting designer and strictly as a lighting engineer. We're all here on the spectrum. So if illumination is something that interests you, it is best that you find your knowledge on the entire scale, and you will find your spot within it. So lighting engineers, they're absolutely necessary part of our illumination, because they are very good at this, at understanding the standards that need to be applied, whereas lighting designers are very good at interpreting the moods and human aspects of the lighting. And we are best at working together. Now, as I mentioned earlier, what is a lighting designer or engineer in both cases? We need to look at this as a, we're sitting on few chairs at the same time. We are designers or the architects of the space that we are illuminating, whether that be interior or exterior, or I'll go into further details later on. We need to be the engineers. We need to understand the tools that we were given. We need to understand how light works. We need to understand how fittings work. We need to understand the photons, the lumens, the luxes. We need to understand how to calculate, how to find those values to make the areas safe and sufficiently illuminated for specific tasks. But we also need to be psychologists. We need to understand the clients. We need to understand the users, because these are the people that we are providing this lighting for. Now, let's talk about lighting industries a little bit more, and let's talk about the associated career opportunities. See, I don't want to say jobs. I would like to say this is a whole industry, and it's incredibly vast and it's incredibly diverse. So let's start with the first one, the obvious one, I would like to say. So in architecture or interior design, so what do we illuminate? Again, for this time, I will describe this through artificial lighting for the majority of it. We are invited by the architects, by the interior designers, by people with builders, developers, even electricians. So electrical and illumination, they are related, but they're not the same thing. So we would be invited to provide illumination for the architectural part in this case. So if you look at the bridge, not only where the cars and pedestrians are, but the structure of the bridge, the facades, the emphasizing the forms. When we are looking at, in this case, let's say facade of a church, this is heritage buildings that we're looking at. Even for casinos, I will say. So the exteriors of the buildings and the interiors of the buildings, when we need to illuminate the paths, the offices, the rooms, the hospitality projects, the hospitals. We have schools that that require illuminations. Retail, that is a very, very big and important part. So, and I will go back to something that I said earlier. So if you're looking at the bridge, how it's illuminated, and versus on the completely other side of the spectrum would be that hospitality project. So this is both for One is more for the engineering, because you need to understand the light fittings very well, versus the more decorative, more subtle and more subjective lighting that would be encountered in hospitality projects. Urban planning in public spaces, again, a very big spectrum. So in those areas, we would be talking about not only the undersides of the bridge, tops of the bridge, undersides of the bridge, where pedestrian activity it can be recorded. But it's more than that. We would be illuminating or finding illumination for parks, for playgrounds, for squares. So these are all public spaces, and they require different kind of a different kind of approach. A very big one, sports fields. So when we're talking about sports fields, what kind of lighting can we expect? So from golf courses down to baseball courses, down to stadiums, both inside and out. I know that in Perth, you've got this magnificent stadium that was built a couple of years ago. A colleague of mine did it, Bessie Ivanova from Signify. I would encourage everyone who can, who has the ability, to go there and see how this is all done. Now, when it comes to sports lighting, it is very important not only to provide the lighting that we can find our way around the soccer field. No, 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 no. We need to take into account that some of the sports that we play, they can be dangerous. So I'm using this example as, let's see, the baseball field over there. We have a high-speed projectile hurtling towards your head. You need to be able to see that. And safety in these sports fields is very important. So all of these sports fields, they have a very strict, very, very strict Australian standards, or I apologize to people, to attendees who are from other countries. In Australia, we have certain set of Australian certain standards that we need to comply with. Every country has their own. They could be a little bit different. So I encourage everybody to look into those requirements. But I will use the Australian standards for sports lighting that I am most familiar with. So in the case of the baseball field, it's not only that you provide the illumination for the outfield, but the infield that needs to be more highly illuminated, not only on the horizontal, so that means on the ground, but also on the vertical planes. So the players standing up need to be sufficiently illuminated. Why? Like I mentioned earlier, there's a baseball ball speeding towards you and you need to be able to see it. So those are very challenging illuminating tests that we need to comply with. And I find them very intriguing personally. I would typically find them that it's like a puzzle that you need to resolve. And using different light fittings to do that, because they perform differently. So, and other sports fields as well. So if I just say soccer fields, there's different positions on this soccer team, and we need to provide an ample amount of illumination for those players to see well. And furthermore, we need to prevent glare. They need to be comfortable. Have you ever walked on a sports field where you needed to shield your eyes? Well, that's one of those things. So with sports lighting, there's a big chapter on all of that. So sports fields would be from baseball fields, soccer fields, rugby fields, even golf, badminton fields. We've got netball, we've got basketballs and all that. And it's not only outdoors, it's also indoors. So again, similar ever so slightly different, but very similar rules need to apply. So I find sports lighting to be very intriguing. Next one. Quite often when people ask me, what do you do for a living? And I say, well, I'm a lighting designer. They go, oh, do you do theater? And I say, no, but I wish I was. Because lighting, of course, is in theater, TV, and cinema. Do you ever see, or did you ever notice how lighting can change the mood of the scene? So when we have high contrast lighting, it evokes drama, suspense, and we get a little bit nervous. We kind of scoot to the edge of the seat because we know something is going to happen. And when the lighting is very soft and warm, we know that something pleasant is going to happen. And we see those things and we're not even aware of them. So once I had this brilliant opportunity that I had the pleasure of listening to a webinar from one of the makers of the movie Avatar. So they explained, because of course, in that, even if it's an animated movie, they need to allow for lighting. So that too goes into the department of the TV and cinema. So the person was explaining to us how they positioned the lights to get certain effects. And then we got to watch the movie again. And we were all amazed that how come we didn't see that before? And it goes further to that. So when we are looking at presenters, maybe not on webinars, but when we are in conference rooms, have you ever noticed how lights would be hitting the person who is on the lectern? So we need to allow for the lighting to come from the front and from the back. I bet you didn't know that. Well, some of you might have already. So when it comes to the theater, that's a whole different jar of cookies, because they use ever so slightly different lights. Their lights actually have even different colors that emphasize the color of the skin. And it's such an amazing experience to be learning about that. And it's a lot to do with programming, when certain lights going to come on and off and so on and so forth. So those of you who fancy programming, I think this would be a good connection for you. So learning about lights and then getting to play around with buttons and lights coming on and off. It's good fun. Automotive and transportation. Here too, we need to know about lighting. And it's not just the headlights that we need to understand how they could work, but on cars and on motorcycles, but also on boats and on planes and interior of the cabins of cars. It all goes into this. Further to that, the lighting that goes along the railway, it is very, very important, because we need to provide sufficient lighting for the conductor and protect the wildlife. So here are very interesting challenges for people who like to tinker around cars. Research and medical fields. Now, I'm not only talking about hospitals, so hospitals that have operating theatres and hospitals that have patient care wards. I'm also talking about the researches that have been done on how lighting is affecting us. And studies have shown that with proper lighting, I'm not talking just about the color temperature or the colors of the light, on the ambient, but how this is affecting our recovery. Studies have proven that with good lighting, I'm going to say, with good lighting, patients have recovered faster. They felt more comfortable, especially in long stays at the hospital. You know that color, if I'm going into proper color, like red color or blue color or green colors, they would affect our mental state and a person could calm down. So sometimes you would see that in certain rooms, they would apply a certain color. So especially if, I don't know, somebody has to go into the operating theater, they're looking to have a surgery done. That is anxiety for them. So adapting the lighting for the patient to feel more comfortable is very important. But I'll go back into the research on the medical fields. They are lasers, laser eye surgeries, lasers to perform surgeries. Radiology is, we're treating cancer with light. That's such a wonderful thing that we can do with lighting. So people who are interested in medicine and how they can help people using light, this is a great opportunity. This is a great avenue for you to explore. Agriculture. So lighting, of course, light makes plants grow. We all know that because plants need photons. Photons are coming out of the light fitting, are the food for plants. So this is an opportunity for all of you with green thumbs or that come from farming background. One of the most important industries in the world. There's no farmers, there's no life. But farmers also understand how light affects their livestock and how it affects their plants. So now, moving into the future, we've got more and more people populating the earth. We are figuring out how to provide more food, especially in densely populated areas like cities. So we've got greenhouses, we've got fast production of the food because mainly the transport is a bigger issue with this amount of food that we are actually consuming. It's not, we need to bring the food closer. Greenhouses are fantastic opportunities. If you don't do a greenhouse, maybe your office would like to have a green wall. It's been proven that they're very soothing for the people who work in those offices. So even Google started to do that. And this is all, there's a whole science behind it. Now, going into the livestock, it is incredible how lighting affects our livestock. Studies have shown that that lighting not only affects our mood and ambient and productivity and the tasks we'd like to perform, but it also affects the livestock. And there's a white paper somewhere that has shown that under different colors of lighting, chickens reproduce faster, they grow faster, they reproduce faster. Certain type of lighting makes them hungrier, so they get bigger and fatter faster. And you can manipulate that with light. Now, I will leave the ethnic questions out of this discussion today, but it's important to note that if you have livestock or if you are breeding animals, you need to allow for appropriate lighting that will ensure their well-being. So just sticking some light so you can find your way around above in the barn might not be a good idea. But again, if farming or agriculture is something that you're fond of, intertwining it with lighting is a very interesting avenue. Auditing and compliance. So I mentioned standards earlier. So somebody needs to be there to ensure that we are being energy efficient. Somebody needs to be there to ensure that all the standards, all the light level requirements are good. So those people would take into account the human-centric lighting, they would take into account the researches that have been done, and they would try to apply them into the standards that are constantly evolving. They're also there to make sure that everything has been done according to the standards. So these roles are very, very important. And I know I've got quite a few colleagues who love doing that. They just like to make sure that everything is done how it was supposed to be done. Very important roles in this part of the industry. Luminaire design. So I use these three images to show you that when somebody says, oh, I design luminaires, this is such a vast thing to address. So if you're feeling a little bit more creative, more artistic, maybe designing decorative lights is more for you. The middle ground would be technical architectural lights, that they have a certain performance that is required of them. And with that, you could be addressing the they're called IES files, so photometric files, to figure out how much light is coming out of a particular fitting and how that will perform in our calculations that we use. And on the left-hand side, you see an image of that's a sports light fitting, and it has this particular fitting has this amazing optic that throws light not in all direction, but has the ability to flow in one quadrant only. Great for sports fields, wouldn't you think? So you don't have obtrusive lighting to deal with. So these are all very important parts of the illumination industry. And I know a lot of people who have entered this industry from not only from all walks of life, but also from very different backgrounds. So from industrial design to very technical manufacturing processes. So this is a very big field again in illuminating society. Now, how to become an illuminating specialist, I'll say this time. So lighting designer, lighting engineer, and everything in between. Well, there's a couple of parts. Like I mentioned earlier, we come from very different backgrounds. Like myself, I'm an architect who stumbled upon lighting and followed that footpath. I have some colleagues that have entered through sales. They started working in sales of light fittings, and they realized that this is something they like, and they've devoted their lives to it. I've got some colleagues that have come from interior design. I've got some electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, from interior design, from everywhere. So now, if you want to learn more about lighting, you would be best to go for, let's say, you can get a bachelor's degree in lighting design or a related field. So for myself, and I can say for certain institutions, they're providing that, you could have an elective that starts, it's introduction to lighting. And it gives you a good foundation. So namely, this is how I entered. I had an elective at my university, and I said, this is it, I'm in. And then I pursued further education on this. So as a bachelor, you could find an elective that would be discussing luminaire or lighting design. The second one would be postgraduate. So let's say you finished your bachelor's degree and you found that illumination is something that interests you. So you can get a postgrad course, like here in at the EIT, and they would tell you all there is about lighting, from how it affects humans, to photons, to watts, to lumens, to how to apply lighting in any type of project, whether that is a commercial or is it residential or is it sports. It doesn't matter. You get that knowledge. Now, engineering degrees, now electrical engineering or architectural engineering, which is rather similar to what I've mentioned before, they would have certain areas of their studies that is dedicated to lighting design. Now, it depends on different countries, have different offerings. So now the second part would be either you get a specialized courses or certifications. Some of them would be shorter courses, Some would be slightly longer. So even if you're interested in fundamentals of light or just wanting to get your feelers out a little bit, there's providers here that can give you, I will say, just an introduction to lighting. Now, IES, so Illuminating Engineering Society, here in Australia and New Zealand, we offer, or we can guide you towards those courses. We can help you find them. So if you are interested in something like that, yes, feel free to reach out. And also the other association that has quite a big presence here is the IELD, so International Association of Lighting Designers, and they can help you out with those too. So, and then there's other little courses that you can attend. They would be more specialized though. So they would be in theater lighting. I'm just plucking things out of thin air. Daylighting. They would be for Dialux Evo software. So as lighting designers, we typically use two, most commonly use two, but there's others. So Dialux Evo would be one software that allows us to verify the illumination on our project, or AGI 32. Both are very good. So, and there's providers that can, where we can learn how to navigate that software. And then hands-on experience. So there's internships. So let's say you can start working straight away at a consultancy, but you will be starting from scratch. So you can gain your knowledge through your work. Sometimes, like I mentioned earlier, I've got colleagues who are now experts in the field. Took them a while, but they're here from sales roles. And then memberships in the industry organizations such as ILD, IES, or CLA. So illuminating societies in Australia are the IES. Now, I'm going to say now Australia, but the IES is a worldwide organization. We have our own separate chapter here that is now IES ANZ, so Australia and New Zealand, that I'm not only a member of, but I'm the member of the board, like I mentioned earlier. And we have a few different grades to our membership that recognize the level of knowledge and expertise that you possess. So if you are a lighting enthusiast, then you would be applying for the associate level of the membership. If you finish one of the approved courses for like EIT here, then a little bit of working experience, then you would be granted a Tech IES post-nominal, which then means, so for anybody who you are conversing with, that you are actually an expert in this field. A higher level of that would be MIES, so member of the IES, that requires a certain level of technical knowledge and quite a few years of working experience. And then there's a separate is a registered lighting practitioner, which means that not only you are a member that possesses a certain level of knowledge, but you're actually like really, really knowledgeable, because you need to, your knowledge or your application needs to be approved by the peers, and it's quite scrutinizing. Now, IELD, International Association of Lighting Designers, has a similar membership level, I'm going to say. They're called Certified Lighting Designer. Now, I'll go back into MIS and CLD. For most of the world, depending also on the part of the country you're in, here in Australia, those two carry value when you are producing your lighting design. So when you submit it, you are eligible to sign off on the lighting. And that carries a big weight. So when you do finish your formal part of the education, I strongly encourage you to get yourself certified so you can actually sign off on your own projects. Now, there's an additional body here in Australia. They're called Lighting Council Australia. They don't have membership grades per se, But all these three entities are here to help lighting designers or illuminating designers, I'd rather say. And they all provide access to additional informations, to white papers, to studies. We organize workshops, competitions, internal competitions, and additional lectures. So we're constantly striving to expand your knowledge and to stay current with new developments in the field of lighting. So thank you very much. I will pass the baton back to Aravind.
Thanks, Luca. Thanks a lot. And sorry, I think I lost a slide. Naveen, can you just help me out on this one? For some reason,
Nigeria. Hi.
yeah, the slides went missing. In fact, I can share that on my site if it's. No worries. I think I'll share it from my site. Okay, can you bring back the slides, Marvin? It's not there.
Yeah, I'm uploading it now.
Yeah, great. Yeah, while Marvin is doing that, let me just quickly also, yes, I'll take control of that and I'll go straight into where Luca left out. Yes. Yeah. All right. Fine. Is the slides moving?
Yep, I can see it now.
Great. Thank you. All right. So thanks, Luca. Thanks a lot for that very insightful and informative presentation that you have actually given. All right. Now, I obviously say this. You see, I'm a mechanical engineer. All right. As a mechanical engineer, for me, is my understanding of light is very much light is part of an electromagnetic radiation. Light has got a speed of 3 times 10 to the power 8 meters per second. And in fact, I teach Einstein's special relativity on the concept of how light, the speed of light affects time, the space-time domain and stuff like that. But when I was given this particular course under my coordination, I was obviously totally blown off, amused by the other things of light that I was totally not aware of. So probably I know light in the aspects of physics, but not on what you have talked about, or how light actually affects the feeling of human. All right, and you talked about the growth and of chickens and stuff like that. Now these are obviously things like probably as a mechanical engineer, I was not exposed to. So we have been too much into these Einstein's and thing and the speed of light and how you do that and stuff like that. So quite good thing. So for all the participants who have just attended this, I'm sure you would have had the same feeling from Luca's presentation this morning, right? Now, saying all of that, if whatever Luca have just mentioned have kind of in a way triggered a bit of how would I say interest in this whole aspect of lighting design, illumination, and so on and so forth, probably I can look into that by giving a bit of information on what EIT can offer with respect to this career in illumination engineering and lighting design, right? Now, EIT offers a range of courses. We do have courses like what Marvin, when Marvin first started, he talked about the range of courses that we attend in terms of higher education and doctorate and stuff like that. But we do also have a range of courses coming under the advanced diploma, right? So we have got the Advanced Diploma of Illumination Engineering and Lighting Design. So that is the course that is directly related to what Luca was presenting this morning, right? It's a 18 months course. All our advanced diploma courses are 18 months. And for this particular course, we have got the next intake for this is next year. As you can see there, we got one on the 14th of January 2025, on the 1st of July 2025, right? Now, ideally, what we are looking into this course is the whole course has actually been designed in such a way that it gives the student who's actually taking up this particular course knowledge on lighting design, illumination design. So every aspect that Luca has covered this morning, right, on in terms of the design of lights in in a stadium, lights in a cafeteria, right, or lights even in a hospital room. Now, all of those aspects are in fact covered in this particular course. So we are actually trying to come up with a course that is kind of packed with all the required knowledge, skill that eventually we go out there in the bigger market, you'll be in fact be able to work or even contribute as a lighting specialist, right? Now, this course is provisionally endorsed by the Illumination Engineering Society or the Lighting Society, the one that Luca was mentioning, because as probably it's about on the next time that I can talk, EIT in fact works together with IES on this particular course, right? Every single module in this course has to be endorsed by IES before we can even run those courses. Now, this covers the webinars, the assessments, and so on, right? Luca here has also been, as I mentioned, has been obviously involved in some endorsements of modules. And if you want later on, you can ask Luca on the level of quality that we have in this particular course, right? So that is how EIT is involved in this course in the aspect of IES. And as you can see there, we are obviously looking into also possibilities of getting full endorsement from IES soon. And if that happens, any graduate of this particular course is obviously eligible to be to gain membership as the technology. That's the Tech IES that Luca was mentioning a while ago, because our advanced diploma is a technologist course. So eventually you'll become a technician. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is the Tech IES that you are referring to. Is that right, Luca? Yeah.
That is correct.
Great. Yeah. Okay. So yes, so that's a bit on that. And now let me tell you the other part of this. Not only the course has been endorsed by IES, the course is also has been accredited and approved by the Training Accreditation Council here in Australia, right? And we have also got the governing body, the Australian Skills Quality Authority, the ASQA, we call it in short. Now, all of our courses are obviously endorsed and accredited by the TAC, Training Accreditation Council, and ASQA, including this particular course, right? And the course is sitting, all our advanced diploma course is sitting at an AQF, Australian Qualification Framework level of 6. Generally, that particular level is a level where anyone who's taking up a course with that level, you are looking into very much specialized knowledge. So this particular course is sitting in a level where whatever you're gaining from this is eventually going to be giving you the knowledge that's required for a specialist in lighting design. Probably you are still a technologist. There's a bit more to go up on that, up the ladder, a career ladder, like what Luca pointed out. But this probably would be the starting point for you, right? All right. Now that is the total modules that we have got in this course. We have got 14 modules, right? So you can see modules like fundamental concepts of lighting, human factor in lighting, something that Luca pointed out on how lighting affects the feeling in humans and stuff like that. So we got a very specialized fields like lighting design and interior lighting design. So every aspect which Luca pointed out, as I mentioned even earlier, is in a way covered as a module in this particular course, right? Because Luca was obviously talking in the part of she being an IES member and how it has to be. And this course obviously is being endorsed into IES. So obviously whatever was mentioned earlier fits into some of these modules in here, right? Now, a bit more into entry requirement. Now, this is a very general entry requirement that we have for every advanced diploma courses. Now, it could be slightly different for an individual because we do have RPLs and stuff like that. But what you are seeing there is very much a general entry qualification. But if you are interested on looking into what type of entry qualification that you can expect, please, you can always, I'll tell you the email to email. Okay, we have got course advisors who can actually assist you and give you details on how you will get recognized prior learning to some of these courses, right? So for now, I'll just leave it as a very general information. Fine. What else? Now, delivery methodology. Now, this is a very important one, right? Now, EIT started off as an institute that looks into online learning. So generally, we specialize in online learning. We've generally got about 20 years of experience on online learning, right? Even before most of these big universities have actually transitioned into online learning during the time of COVID, the pandemic that we had. EIT has already been in that part for that time. So we are specialists on online learning. Okay, most of our courses are run online, including this course. So that means you can be any part of the world. We have got participants from Rwanda today, right? You can also be involved in. You can also be a kind of enroll in this course, because as long as you are having all the required tech facilities to be able to join a webinar, all right, in a like this, right, internets and computers and stuff like that. As long as you got all of that thing, you're already good to go to take up a course like this, right? Now, all of our instructors are obviously industry experts. We have got a lot of we've got about a number of IES members who are actually involved in teaching this particular course, right? So, like was mentioned by Marvin a while ago, all our advanced diploma courses are taught by industry experts, right? But that's how we actually choose our instructors. Now, the other part of it is also the practical part of it. That's a very important point to take note, right? You might be wondering, okay, advanced diploma courses are meant to be very practical bias. How are we going to be involved in practical? Now, you would have two types of assessments in here. All right, we'll leave the quiz. There's a small quiz just to check your understanding of the various webinars. But we have got written assessment and we've got practical assessments. Now, all our practical assessments are conducted in the form of a remote lab kind of aspect. So that means you will be normally given softwares. We are using dialects for at least 4 of our modules, right? So dialects that Luca mentioned earlier, right? Now that's a kind of a software that's widely used by most specialists. So we are using that for 4 modules, dialects. We are using AutoCAD. All right, so we do have AutoCAD, and we also got some very simple softwares like this is something that I introduced for the first module that we've got. We got a PET lab, a very simple simulation type of a software. So dialects is the one that we are using at the moment, and obviously from the recent course advisory meeting that obviously Luca was involved, we had some suggestions for other softwares which eventually will bring into this. But for now, you got dialects, you got AutoCAD, right? Now, all of this are obviously software driven. So you can be involved in hands-on practical, all right, by means of these remote labs. And these remote labs are given to you. You can obviously enroll into one of these labs and complete your assessments and practical parts and stuff like that, right? So that's a bit on that. I'll happy to elaborate on this later on if you require. Now, that's the typical contribution that you are expected. So you are typically expected to spend at least about roughly about 10 to 15 hours. This is very more of, again, a very general thing, right? We have got live webinars. So most of our live webinars are for all of these modules, we'll have easily about 4 to 5 live webinars. That means we've got 5 live webinars, 1 live webinar every week. All right. So you'll have 4 live webinars or 5 live webinars, which you are obviously and you are expected, encouraged to attend. And you need to have a certain attendance, as you can see that, right? We need to have a certain attendance requirement, right? Which for 70% attendance requirement. If you can't attend a particular webinar, you can obviously submit what we call as a webinar summary to your learning support officer, right? I'll bring up these supports bit in a while. So that's a bit on that. Yeah, student support. We're just going to come to that. Student support, right? Now, we have instructors like me, okay, who are actually teaching you, all right? But probably an instructor might not be there all the time to support you. Now, probably you may need technical support, non-technical supports, right? So instructors like me, as I said, we have specialized instructors on to take care of your technical queries. Okay, but if you've got some sort of queries that are not related technically, probably you're stuck on some software, all right, or probably due to some reason you need some extensions in your assessment. Yes, can, if there's a valid reason, right? Now, for all of those kind of supports, we have got a dedicated person that we call as the learning support officers. Most of the time, from experience, what I've seen is most of our students engage or communicate quite regularly with the learning support officers rather than the instructors, right? So the learning support officers are there for you, right, to support you throughout your whole entire study with us. They can assist you with technical, non-technical, if obviously, but if most of the time, as I said, technical is taken care by the instructors. So they take care of assistance like system, process, uh, course progression. If you're stuck, you're not sure how to progress further, okay, any general administration. So we have got dedicated people to take of it. So you're not going to be left just like that the moment you get enrolled with us, right? If you can't get in touch with an instructor, we've got the next person to help you out. So that's the learning support officer. Fine. Now probably I've already covered this earlier before. Yeah. So we have got lecturers and instructors, which you can obviously engage on live webinars. So no, I've covered that. So not going to go into that. Now, how do you apply? Probably this might be something slightly off my expertise. I'll probably give this baton back again to Marvin to finish this off from this point onwards. Marvin?
So yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Aravind. So for those who are really interested in applying for this course, so the first basic step is to talk to our talk to us course advisors. We can definitely help you out, and especially with the entry requirements. As we all know, EIT is very specific on that one. So basically, there are options, there are ways on how to apply. First is you make an inquiry on our website. So you can just fill this form, as you can see on your screen. All right. And then basically, one of our course advisors will be in touch with you to assist you with your inquiry, right? And then, yep, again, as mentioned earlier, you can reach out to us so that we can actually discuss to you what the course is, the intro requirements, how to apply, and then if there's any further assistance that you may need, we'll be here to, of course, assist you with that. So yeah, I think that would be it. So yep, these are the upcoming webinars, as you can see on your screen. So for September, we still have the next, the 19th of September 2024. That would be the Hydrogen from Vision to Action, Practical Steps for a Sustainable Future, which will be hosted by yours truly again. Okay, so I'll be hosting that webinar. All right, so we'll be having the, on the 25th of September 2025, that would be Advancement in Computational Fluid Dynamics. All right, and the other ones, as you can see on your screen. All right. So yeah, I think that's it for me. Thank you so much. And yep, do we have any questions from the audience today? Let me see. Do we have any questions? So yeah, Doc, I think there's no question about the course. Well, anyway, it's very understandable from Loca's point. Now I did understand why, because I'm a fan of cafe. Actually, let me just turn on my camera. Um, sorry for that. So yeah, let me just. So yeah, this is actually with regards to Lucas' discussion. Yep, I'm a fan of cafe. So every time I went to a cafe, and then there's like a dim lights, or sometimes it's very, very distracting lights. It really affects the mood when you're actually working, or if you're actually sitting there just to relax. And you might find some cafes not really interesting, then you're not really, you cannot feel. So I think that is something to do with the lights as well, because like with Starbucks, why do I don't know, Luca, why do I feel like relaxed when I'm in Starbucks? It's very dim. I don't know. I'm not too sure really. How does it work? How does that then, is it a mix and match or something? How do they do that?
It would be a little bit of a mix and match, and it depends on the time of the day as well. So here's so many tricks that clever lighting designers use. But so in we do not feel comfortable in. I'm going to give you two opposites of the scenario. So we do not feel comfortable when all the light is dispersed. So when you've got where the light is too diffused, that light would be described as an let's say an overcast day.
Mhm,
You know how it gets kind of it gets dull, and that's how we feel. So oftentimes in winter in northern countries, let's say in Europe, we would notice that people feel a little bit more down, a little bit slower moving. So dispersed light, 100% dispersed light, is in itself, it's not good. But then you have the other side of the spectrum would be when we have very high contrasting shadows, let's say midday summer day, you
mhm,
get very strong, let's say dappled effect. And that one also, it's we feel slightly uncomfortable because it inhibits our perception of the space. In every space, what we need to do first is to figure out the boundaries. So we seek walls, we seek floors, we need to find the navigation in it. And
mhm,
that high, super high contrast, again, it messes up with us a little bit. So we need to find ourselves somewhere along this line. Now, this one will relax us, so more diffused can relax us a little bit,
mhm,
um, but you need to have both present. So clever lighting designers use both accent lighting, like to call it, and
mhm,
in general lighting. Now, the second part that we play, how we play with you. Sorry,
mhm,
it sounds quite ominous when I say it like that. Is this is how we can affect your mood and productivity is by adapting the color temperature. So the color temperature, the warmer
yeah.
it is, more towards candlelight, I will say, the more relaxed you feel,
Mhm,
and the more bluer, I'm going to say bluer, the brighter it is, the more energized you feel. However, there's a cap off, right?
mhm,
Because once you get into those 6,000 kelvins, it's too much. Sometimes it's just too intense. So in depends on what we want to achieve. So Starbucks doesn't have the all warm colors, but doesn't have all cool colors, but they're finding somewhere in between. And then last aspect of it, so it's the color temperature, it's the light distribution, and then there's the big factor that is called you. So
mhm,
every person will have their preference, and their studies have shown that people feel the majority of people will feel good for certain tasks or certain ambience, let's say coffee drinking,
mhm, mhm.
in certain scenarios, and they figured it out. So they figured us out what we like,
Yeah.
and they've applied it to Starbucks.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how much the designer earns for this one, because this is a very big project, right? It's Starbucks.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a very big
yeah,
company, and you do the elimination for all these branches. You have to design everything, right? So yeah,
mm,
I was just wondering
yeah,
about it. So
yeah.
this is a great opportunity, really. For
Absolutely. And they do have their standard, how they would like that certain style of lighting that they like to apply. It would be the same as with McDonald's. So chicken nuggets are chicken nuggets wherever you go. It should be at least.
Yeah.
But there would be slight adaptations because culturally people are different. So certain cultures have their different preferences. Goes for food, goes for lighting, goes for textures, goes for everything. They do apply, but they need to again flex that principle around a certain space. So this is where the creative part comes in. You need to find how to apply what you want. So it gets technical and it gets very creative. So, and there's no such thing as the cookie cutter. I mean, I think I mentioned it before. Every project is different, and every time you need to figure it out again. So
Yeah.
it's always a
All
nice
right.
challenge.
It's a really good opportunity for those for our audience here. Yeah, you already know. Okay, the opportunities that lies when you study illumination. All right, thank you so much,
I
Luca.
think
Yep.
there is a question from Nikos Marvin. He's asking that is the structure of this advanced diploma like
There.
the other advanced
Oh
diplomas,
yeah, there's.
right? Yeah. So yeah, Nikos, you are there. Yeah, the structure of all our advanced diplomas are obviously the same. All right, but it's just the number of modules may differ. Right. For as I said, in this particular module, in this particular course, we got 14 modules to cover. So most of the time, the way these modules will go is they will go in a sequential manner. There's no specific, they don't have any sort of prerequisites between one module to another module, right? It's just that they will go on a sequence. That means at the moment, all our more advanced diplomas are, if you got 19 modules, it generally starts from the first module. You finish the first module, you do the second one, then you go on the third one, and so on and so forth. The same goes with this particular advanced diploma also. Yes, so every advanced diplomas are having the same cost structure. My apologies, have got the same structure in terms of how it's being delivered. All right, I think that is fine. I don't see any other
Okay.
questions.
Questions? Yep, I think
All right.
that's it. So that's a wrap. Thank you so much, Dr. Aravind. Loka, thank you so much for sharing those information with us. I was able to learn as well. Okay, about that. Thank you so much. So yeah, I think that's it. Thank you so much again for our audience, and that concludes our day today. Have a good one. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thanks everyone. Thanks, Luca. See
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
See ya.
Thank you, everyone.